Now that we have gone through the sources, we've seen the contradiction between the Gemara and Yevamot and Erechin, and we've come up with answers. Now it's time to look at the halacha. And for this, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the PowerPoint along with the Mishnah Berurah and the Shulchan Aruch that are posted on Moodle. And the rest of it I'd like you to do on your own. And at the very end of this brief Zoom, I will explain the assignment for this unit. So here we go. Let's take a look at the halacha. So we start off with a chart that has Sikum Dine Tochacha, and we have different options here: Chote Mezid, Chote Shogeg, Safeki Mikabel, Borur Shelo Yikabel. And the first thing we do is we go down here to the Mishnah Berurah. We open up the Mishnah Berurah, and we start reading with the students so that they can get an idea, learning from the Mishnah Berurah what the halacha is, and learning from the Shulchan Aruch. So we'll start in Taf Reish Chet, Ot Bet, Sif Bet. Nashim she'ochlot v'shotot ad shechashecha ve'en enim yodot shemitzvah losif mechol al kodesh, referring to Erev Yom Kippur. They don't know that you're supposed to add. En ha'amchin v'yadan k'dei shelo tova lasot b'zadon. We don't, protest because we don't want them to do it b'mezi. Okay? So immediately, if we see the Mishnah Berurah in Sifkat and Gimel, the Mishnah Berurah tells us, Ein mamchin biyadan, v'dafka biyodea shelo yikablu mimenu, al b'safek shem yikablu tzarech limkot, afilu b'midah d'Rabbanan. Only if we know that they won't accept it. Who does that sound like? Sounds a little bit like the Smad. Even only if we know that they won't accept it, but if there's a suffix, so we have to be mocha. Now, what are we talking about here? What type of person are we talking about here? We're assuming, first of all, we know that we're referring to a woman that is doing it bishogeg. Okay, and let's go back to our chart here. We're talking about a woman that's a chote shogeg. We're talking about a person that is barur shelo yikabel, because the Mishnah Berurah told us what the halacha was if maybe there's a safek. So our makor is that Mishnah Berurah, and what's the din? The din seems to be ein chiyuv lo chicha. There is no obligation to be mochiach. But wait, there is an empty box here. Let's see what that is all about. We go back to the Mishnah Berurah, and we continue. We come back to the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says, "Haga v'hu adin b'chol davar isar mina mutav shu shogiyim v'lo yimei zidim." Seems sounds like the Gemara in Yevamos. V'dafka she'eino mefurash b'Torah adds in a new thing. We're only referring to things that are not explicitly mentioned in the Torah. Afal pi shehu d'oraita. Even though it's d'oraita, if it's clear in the Torah, it's absolutely certain that the law says don't do this, and they're doing it, you're mocha. You have to give a protest. So we have to sort of put an asterisk, a kochavit, by the case that we said we're allowed to refrain from giving musar, we're giving tochacha. Why? It only applies to things that are einu mefurish b'Torah. If you take a look at the Mishnah Berurah and Sivkat and Vav, he says, Ratza lomar de'az ani yocholim liflot sheshogegim. If it's not written in the Torah b'feirish, it's just a limud, so then we can really assume that they're shogeg. Aval b'davar mefurish b'Torah, ve'im over malzeh, b'vadai, einam shogegim. So the Shulchan Aruch makes an assumption that everyone knows the basic concepts in the Torah, and you can't call it mutav shu shogegim because they really know that's not allowed to be done. Okay, so in this last column, we have to add in chumrata iser, and we have to put in eino mefurish b'Torah. Now, by the way, if they really can't figure out what eino mefurish b'Torah is, if you click on this, it gives you a summary of this particular halacha, actually, about mosifin michol al kodesh and how it's learned from a limud. It's not learned specifically from a pasuk, and therefore, beferish, and therefore we know that it's something that is not mefurish b'Torah. Okay, so you would continue going through the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah, and each time you go through it, you'll see that a different part of the chart gets filled in, a different part of the chart becomes more clear, and you have different examples of Hocheach Tochiach, when to do it and when not to do it. Again, keep in mind those three, the Nimukei Yosef, the Smag, and the Rabbi Yehuda Chassid. After you've gone through that information and you understand how the chart is built, etc., so the only matala for this particular unit is one where you let me know it's not a full lesson plan, it's just a summary of how you might use this chart in a class, taking into account everything that we've learned so far about Hocheach Tochiach, how you might use the chart to teach a particular class. So here is, and this is, you can find this in Moodle. We'll take a look at it. It's the assignment. Write up a short description, not a full outline of what you would do. Please be sure to include, in other words, how do you do the chart? The age of the group of the students, the group's background. Okay, in other words, are they able to learn Shulchan Aruch and Mishnah Berurah? If not, you'd have to do it a little bit differently. A short paragraph, it can be done in Hebrew, explaining why you chose this method. And I think it's important to try and include the other parts of the lesson that we did. In other words, do the students understand, for example, which answers to the stira, the Shulchan Aruch, the Mishnah Berurah accept? As you read it through, those things will start coming out. You'll start seeing some of the things that the Mishnah Berurah or the Shulchan Aruch mentioned that have to do with those three answers that we gave. So as usual, please, you can work in groups, but please make sure that each individual uploads it to Moodle. And here you'll have again the entire chart with the the little asterisks that I put in. And you'll take a look through it, and it'll help you plan the particular outline that you're meant to do. Okay, there's only one thing left to do in Hocheach Tochiach, and we'll be doing that next, and that is how to give tochacha. Some helpful hints that I'm going to try and go through in the next lesson to help you work with your students on the best methods of fulfilling this particular mitzvah.